Welcome, Grimdark enjoyers, to a quick, well, I'm hoping it's quick, a quick review of the new Salamanders Detachment. I don't actually think you could call it a new detachment. It's really the same Firestorm Assault Force with a few improvements, a few renames. But on the whole, I would say this is a pretty lukewarm upgrade. While improved, it's still lacking in some key areas that I think, unfortunately, were the same criticisms I had of Firestorm Assault Force. So we'll quickly go through the detachment, the previews that were brought to my attention, and I'll explain why I feel the way I feel. So, the detachment rule has been renamed to Vulcan's Quest, which is nice to have more Salamanders references, even if they are just text, in the Salamanders Detachment. Calling it close range eradication always felt like I see what you're doing, GW. You're not fooling anybody. In any case, the detachment rule here is the same. All your ranged weapons have assault, meaning you can always advance and shoot, and you get +1 strength on those weapons when you're within 12 inches. But the previous criticism I had still applies here, guys, because, look, +1 strength, while good, is a pretty mild perk, and it has a very key restriction being within 12 inches of enemy units. So you're putting yourself into the danger zone, right? You're putting yourself into enemy charge ranges, enemy shooting ranges, most certainly. And really, the desire I had for the Firestorm Assault Force was that you should have +1 strength on all your weapons, period. Salamanders aren't only a shooting army, they want to be up close, they want to be in the mix, they want to be the anvil that the enemy smashes against, right? And so +1 strength is, in melee as well, isn't too far of a reach, right? I think of how flexible Gladius Task Force is, right? That is the kind of the gold standard for Space Marine detachments, in my opinion. It can do everything to a greater potency, and if Salamanders are only going to be shooting and assaulting, advancing, you want something more than +1 strength. So, because of +1 strength, and you're not advancing and charging in this detachment, because there's no tool for that, +1 strength in melee is a pretty reasonable perk to have, in my opinion. So it sucks that it's not here, and I think the detachment is certainly lacking because of it. Anyways, moving on. You have a secondary perk built into the detachment. If you have Vulcan Histan in your army, Infernus Marines, or Infernus Squads rather, can perform actions after advancing, and they can still shoot after performing actions. Which is good, but this isn't anything new. This was a fact-in rule, I believe, to Vulcan Histan's datasheet at some point, so probably if you've been following balanced data slate things, this isn't anything new. It's still, I mean, it's good. It's a good perk to have, because you would reasonably, being able to shoot and do actions is a pretty strong exception when you think about it. Actions are, I mean, I have mixed feelings on actions as a gameplay mechanic, but it is what it is. The game system of 10th edition asks us to interact and do actions, so having a unit that can do that without a trade-off is kind of good, and the detachment is certainly asking us to bring torrent weapons, so you're probably going to want a few Infernus Squads if you're playing Salamanders. Next we have the Immolator enhancement. This is the only enhancement, I believe, which has changed from the previous detachment, replacing Champion of Humanity, which Champion of Humanity used to ignore skill modifiers when attacking. Let me jump back here. Where were we? Immolator. Okay, so, yeah, you get +1 attacks on all your torrent weapons. Nothing complicated here. You're going to put this with an Aggressor Squad or an Infernus Squad. No one cares about a single hand flamer in a unit, obviously. So you probably put this on an Apothecary Biologist. Give those aggressors d6 +2 shots each. And they re-roll their wounds innately because of Twin Linked, so that makes it a little more reliable. Same goes for the Infernus Marines, which would become d6 +1. So, yeah, if you like to lean into the flame weapon meme, this is a thematic win. War-Tempered Artifice, still unchanged. Add 3 to the strength characteristic that bears melee weapons. It's fine. Not very sexy in my opinion. Doesn't excite the way the Gladius enhancements do. Adamantine Mantle, damage -1. Cool enhancement. You know, you don't have monsters to really carry the value too far, but you can put on a Thick Boy Captain, a Gravis Captain, or Terminator Captain, and then you'll probably feel the value. And it has a little bonus perk if the damage is Melta or Flame, or I guess Torrent. Damage is reduced to 1 instead, which is neat. A little niche, but, you know, it could happen. It could happen. Reduce D6 plus 2 Melta damage to 1 is, that'd feel pretty good. So it's a neat, nice to have enhancement. And Forged in Battle still remains a simple dice swap. Actually, it's not a dice swap, it's a dice modify. A dice modification after the fact, so after you roll, you can change the result, which is, it's a big value, right? You can force a crit to proc any sort of sustained or lethal effects, maybe. Too bad you can't use it on the wound roll, but having it on the saving throw is a pretty potent exception. So that's those are. I didn't have any issues with those enhancements in the previous review, if memory serves. So it's cool that they're still here. So now we're on to stratagems. Crucible of Battle. Okay, this one again unchanged. 1 CP used in the shooting phase or fight phase. 1 Adeptus Astartes infantry unit from your army that has not been selected to shoot or fight this phase. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes an attack that targets the closest eligible target within 6 inches, add 1 to the wound roll. It's lame, dude. It's lame. Look, Crucible of Battle used to be just flat +1 to wound. Again, given how potent shooting is in Gladius Task Force and even other Space Marine detachments, I think a 1 CP strat is totally reasonable for just +1 to wound. Use it as you want to. Being within 6 inches gives so much. It's such a steep ask, especially when Oaths of Moment is just available, and you can just give out a +1 to wound anyways, right? So not accounting for that with this update is kind of tone deaf in my opinion, right? Being within 6 inches is crazy. I mean, enemy units have reactive moves and stuff too, so they can kind of circumvent or control it, because now you can turn off my... If I move, if I assault, if I advance using my assault ability from my detachment rule to get within the 6 inches I need for the +1 to wound from this stratagem, my opponent, if they have a reactive move available, could either move away outside of 6 inches, pretty fairly, or they could move something closer to me after I've moved, and now they've turned off my ability, because it's now the target I want to shoot at isn't the closest. It's such a terrible... Honestly, it is a terrible design choice in my opinion. Yeah, like Gladius Task Force is so potent for shooting relative to this, and it doesn't ask you to get up close. And they still have the +1 to wound, right? That's stupid. Stupid stratagem. I hate it. Let's move on. Wrathful Inferno. This is a new one. I couldn't tell you which one it replaces. I think there's 2 new strats. But you use it in the movement phase after an Astartes infantry unit from your army falls back. You can... So you have... fall back and shoot with infantry. That is nice to have. It means you don't have to lean on lieutenants too much, and it keeps you a bit flexible, which is nice, because that was one of my previous criticisms of the old detachment. It feels like Space Marine armies, or any elite army, essentially must have a fall. They must be able to have enough agency to fall back and still act via a stratagem, or else they aren't being characterized well by that detachment. They're too static and inflexible. Doesn't feel very Angels of Death, if you ask me, so having this is nice. I wish it was fallback. Fallback, shoot and charge. My god, Gladius Task Force can do it with their doctrines, right? But in any case, at the very least, it'd be nice if it was fallback, shoot, or charge, right? If it can't offer both, at least offer either or. Or you know what, you can lean into the flamer theme, the fiery theme here, and you could have fallback, shoot, or charge, or if you have a flame or melta weapon, you can do both, things like that. I think there's design space there that's kind of squandered, but look, it's still better than the old stratagem that used to, the 2 stratagems they replaced, rather. Immolation Protocols for 2 CP, unchanged, and again, not worth it. See, the reason why I think Crucible of Battle at 1 CP without the 6-inch restriction for a powerful perk like +1 to wound is fine, is because there's so much internal competition with core stratagems that are so good you'd use it every turn, like your grenades, like your tank shocks, like your heroic interventions, smoke screen if you're running a lot of vehicles, right? There's so many valuable core stratagems that 1 CP is a pretty great price point in 10th edition. But 2 CP for devastating wounds, when Fires of Battle, the old Salamander stratagem, would allow you to do mortal wounds. So mortal wounds were better, and that threshold was on a 4+, rather than devastating wounds, which is only on a 6+ to wound. It's too big of an ask. I don't want to spend 2 CP and then have to roll 6s. Yeah, maybe aggressors have reroll wounds, which helps. I think Vulcan Histan can give you reroll wounds, but look, for me, and maybe others, I don't like to play named Salamanders characters all that often. I like to run my successor chapter as my guys with my heroes, right? So then, what is this really for? An aggressor bomb, and I have to spend 2 CP and hope I roll 6s with the reroll? It's not good, honestly. I don't think it's worth it. There's better things to spend CP on for 2 CP. So that's it's a shame that wasn't revised. Next we have Burning Vengeance. This is, I believe, unchanged. It's a reactive disembark while a transport's being shot. And it's a good one. It messes with opponent target priority. I think it's fine that this is here still. It didn't need to change. Yeah, nothing much to say on that one. And the last stratagem that's new, this is the second, word salad, excuse me. This is the second stratagem, which is new from our set here. Blazing Earth, 1 CP. It's used in the opponent's charge phase, at the start of their charge phase, so before they do any charge. And you have to choose a unit equipped with a torrent weapon, and you select an enemy unit within 12 inches that isn't a monster or vehicle, and that unit has -2 to the charge roll. So that's super good, right? You can make an opponent fail their charge effectively. And you don't have to be the target unit either. So you could have a hand flamer in an assault squad near a unit that wants to charge a different unit, a vulnerable unit on an objective, something like that. And you can say, look, you're near a flamer unit, I'm going to -2 to your movement. Super good. It doesn't stack. I don't think it needs to stack. I feel like this is fine. Fine, totally reasonable, and it gives you another tool for being up close. But again, I still think you want +1 strength on your melee weapons. Let's see here. Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, there's a 6th stratagem in the detachment. The person who can guess it in the comment wins a prize. It's totally unguessable. No one will figure it out. Yeah, other criticisms, I think it's nice that it's leading into flamers. I don't know why we're not having more Melta interaction in the detachment. Is it because Infernus Marines are new and Eradicators are old? I would hope not, but probably. Yeah, like even that last one, Blazing Earth, like why couldn't you use that off a Melta unit? Meltas are hot, right? They are warm to the touch. Burning Vengeance doesn't require any flame or Melta weapons, immolation protocols. Look, even that could be 2 CP for devastating wound on a Melta gun. It's still 2 CP for rolling 6s sucks. But it would at least be better if it worked on Meltas too. Yeah, Crucible of Battle. That's a big sad for Crucible of Battle, because I thought that was low-hanging fruit that would very much likely change, and a big sad for the detachment rule. Well, how long have I been recording here for? 14 minutes. Okay, look, quicker than I thought. Hopefully it wasn't too rambly, guys. That's it for this quick detachment review. Well, that's a wrap on this one. If you enjoyed this video, there are buttons for liking, sharing, and subscribing. Thanks for watching, and a special thanks to Julius Maximus, as well as my other generous patrons and channel members. Patrons and channel members get early access to regular channel videos, as well as free access to various STL doodads. Just a little something for those who help keep the dream alive. Anyways, thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.